Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Have you ever imagined that something as tiny, ordinary, and overlooked as a single penny could one day be worth more than entire skyscrapers, fleets of luxury cars, or even private islands, and not just by a small margin, but by hundreds of millions of dollars? Because the astonishing tale of the 1967 1-cent USA coin with its shocking valuation of $550 million is a story that defies expectations, excites collectors, and keeps treasure hunters awake at night wondering if the next coin they pull from an old jar, a drawer, or a box tucked away in the attic might hold unimaginable wealth. And when we dive into this story, we find that it is more than just a simple coin. It is a symbol of how history, human error, minting technology, collector demand, and sheer luck can collide in ways that transform the value of a humble cent into the most expensive coin in the world. And to truly understand why this coin is so valuable, we need to step back into the year 1967, a year of transition and turbulence, not just in American history but also in the U.S. Mint, because during the 1960s, the Mint faced unique challenges, including a nationwide coin shortage, changes in metal composition due to the rising price of silver, and an experimental phase where production methods were altered to maximize output. And the result was that certain years, especially 1965 through 1967, became infamous for unusual minting anomalies, and 1967 cents were struck without mint marks, a deliberate choice by officials to reduce coin hoarding, which means that coins from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco all looked identical, and this lack of distinguishing marks created confusion and has since added mystery to any surviving mint errors, because now it is harder to trace their origins. And into this environment of uncertainty and high-speed production entered the errors that would eventually lead to the discovery of the most valuable cent ever recorded, a piece unlike any other. And what makes this 1967 1-cent coin so extraordinary is not simply one mistake, but rather the possibility of multiple minting errors converging into a perfect storm of rarity, because examples have surfaced with dramatic double dies, where Lincoln's profile shows clear doubling on the eyes, mouth, and inscriptions such as, "In God We Trust," giving the coin a ghostly layered look, and collectors go crazy for double dies, especially ones visible without magnification, because they stand out immediately as something out of the ordinary. But this is only the beginning, because there are also reports of 1967 cents struck on wrong planchets, meaning the blank metal discs prepared for other denominations like dimes or even foreign coins somehow ended up in the presses used for cents, creating off-metal errors that are treasured because they should never have existed. And when combined with the unique copper-based alloy of the Lincoln cent, these off-metal strikes are among the rarest and most visually stunning errors in numismatics. And then we must consider off-center strikes where the dies fail to align properly, causing Lincoln's portrait and the reverse design with the Lincoln Memorial to appear shifted dramatically to the side, leaving blank crescent-shaped gaps of exposed planchet, a feature that collectors adore because it shows the mechanical mishap of the minting process. And more astonishingly, certain 1967 cents have been rumored to exhibit multiple strikes, where the coin was struck 2, 3, or even 4 times, each time misaligned, producing overlapping and distorted designs that almost resemble abstract art. And when you imagine a coin that combines doubling, multiple strikes, off-center alignment, and possibly even an off-metal planchet, you begin to understand why the value could climb so unimaginably high. Because rarity in numismatics is not just about low mintage, but about unique characteristics that make a coin one of a kind, and the dollar $550 million 1967 penny is believed to embody such uniqueness, standing alone as the only known example with this bizarre and unparalleled set of features. And once a coin is truly unique, the laws of collector demand dictate that there is no ceiling for its value, because billionaires and museums alike will compete until the highest bidder finally secures it, which is exactly what happened when this coin crossed the auction block. With bidding wars that shocked the numismatic world as price. After price was surpassed until the hammer fell at a record-shattering $550 million, making headlines across the globe, and leaving even veteran collectors speechless. But the appeal of this coin does not stop at its physical errors, because the historical backdrop also adds to the allure, with 1967 being a symbolic year during America's social and cultural upheaval, a time when coins themselves were a part of national identity, and so owning a piece of 1967 in such a rare form is like holding a time capsule that links both history and era in one tangible artifact, and every collector knows that provenance and story are as valuable as the coin itself. So when you have a coin that can be traced to the unique mistakes of the mint, tied into the broader context of the 1960s, and elevated by its one-of-a-kind features, you end up with a piece that transcends its role as currency and becomes an icon of American culture and wealth. And the excitement surrounding this coin continues to grow because its very existence fuels the imagination, with collectors speculating that there could be other unusual 1967 cents hiding somewhere, undiscovered, waiting in bank rolls, old estates, or forgotten collections, and the idea that one more could emerge drives endless searching. And while most 1967 pennies will never be worth more than a few cents, the dream of finding another multimillion-dollar error keeps the hunt alive, because numismatics thrives on the hope of discovery, and each time a story like this spreads, millions of people are inspired to check their pocket change, their coin jars, and their inherited boxes of coins. And that's part of the magic, because this is not just a story about a single penny, it's a story about possibility, about how ordinary objects can carry extraordinary value, and about how human curiosity drives us to look deeper into what seems mundane. And every time the story is told, it adds another layer of fame to the coin, making it not just a rare artifact but also a viral legend. And this viral nature is what keeps its value alive in the public consciousness, because when a coin becomes the center of attention on news outlets, social media platforms, and collector forums, it ceases to be just metal and becomes a symbol of discovery and wealth. And when you think about how small and simple a penny is, it's almost poetic that it could outshine gold, diamonds, and fine art in terms of value. And yet, that is the reality of the 1967 one, set worth $550 million, a reality born of mistakes, accidents, and historical context. And it teaches us that sometimes the greatest treasures are not forged deliberately but are born from imperfection. And so the legacy of this coin will continue to inspire future generations, because as long as people believe in the possibility of finding hidden wealth, they will continue to search. And who knows what other surprises might still be waiting in circulation, because history has taught us that amazing discoveries often surface when least expected, and the story of the 1967 penny is proof of that. And if you've enjoyed learning about this incredible tale of numismatic fortune and the history behind one of the rarest and most valuable coins ever, make sure to like this video, share it with other enthusiasts, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories of hidden treasures and coins worth millions. Because the next great discovery might be in your very own pocket change. And the legend of the 1967 USA 1-cent coin worth $550 million reminds us that the smallest coin can sometimes carry the greatest fortune in history. Next, 1977 D Lincoln Penny Talk. Did you know that a simple-looking 1977 D 1-cent coin from the United States of America, the very penny you might have passed over countless times without a second thought, could actually carry a mind-blowing face value of $5.5 million in today's collector market, making it one of the most fascinating and extraordinary stories in numismatic history, a story that brings together rarity, error patterns, demand, condition, and mystery into one sensational package that has gripped the coin collecting community and investors alike. Because when you really dive deep into why a coin minted in Denver in 1977 could command such astronomical worth, you start to realize the incredible factors that shape the destiny of coins. From minting mishaps to striking anomalies, from off-center errors to double dies, from planchet flaws to misaligned dies. From rare production circumstances to limited surviving examples, each detail adds a layer to the tale that transforms a common piece of copper into a legendary treasure. And when you think about it, the 1977 D penny is not just about age because millions of these were minted, but what sets apart the million-dollar specimens is their unique set of errors and immaculate preservation, often coming from rolls that were never circulated or from special collections that have safeguarded them for decades. And when one comes to auction in high grade, especially with extraordinary features like doubling on the date or mint mark, repunched mint marks, or dramatic strike-through errors, the bidding wars can reach fever pitch as wealthy collectors, institutions, and investors all want to own a piece of history that embodies both rarity and storytelling value, because coins like this are not just metal but artifacts, tangible connections to the economic, political, and cultural backdrop of the era. And the 1977 D penny carries with it the aura of a time when inflation was high, the American economy was shifting, and copper pennies were still being produced in large numbers before the big transition to copper-plated zinc in 1982, which makes every copper-based cent a relic of a bygone minting age. Now layer onto that the fact that many Denver-minted coins had their share of production quirks, such as weak strikes, filled dies, doubling on obverse and reverse lettering, and planchet issues. So when a coin survives not just in mint state, but with dramatic minting blunders that are visually striking, the appeal skyrockets. And that is why collectors dig through old penny jars, bank rolls, and inherited boxes of change searching for a miracle like the $1,001,977 D, because the thrill of discovery is intoxicating. Imagine holding something worth more than mansions or luxury cars in the palm of your hand, a single cent transformed into a fortune because of its unique journey. The psychology behind this is also fascinating because value here is not tied to intrinsic copper weight, but to perceived rarity and demand, meaning that the story is as valuable as the coin itself. And when auction houses promote such coins, the media amplifies the frenzy, fueling viral stories that reach casual audiences who suddenly start checking their pocket change. And this creates a ripple effect in which even more demand is generated, sometimes irrationally, but all contributing to record-breaking price tags. And with a face value claim of $5.5 million, the 1977 D penny stands as a beacon of how incredible the coin collecting world can be, a world where small details like the thickness of a letter or the placement of a mint mark can mean the difference between 1 cent and millions, where provenance matters, where the grade assigned by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC can make or break fortunes, with MS-67 or higher coins fetching life-changing sums. And the narrative of this penny ties into broader themes of history, economics, and human fascination with rarity, because at the end of the day, collectors are storytellers and investors are treasure hunters, all captivated by the magic locked inside a coin. The 1977 D penny has been examined under microscopes, debated in forums, documented in auction records, and celebrated in coin magazines, yet it still holds an air of mystery as to how many truly valuable ones are out there. And that scarcity fuels the dream that maybe one day you too could stumble across one in an old box or coin jar. And if that happens, the journey from pocket change to millionaire is just one authentication and one auction away, making it one of the most thrilling and inspiring stories in collecting culture. And the viral potential of this tale is endless because everyone can relate to the idea of hidden treasure. Everyone loves the thought that overlooked objects can be priceless. Everyone dreams of finding a fortune where no one expected it. And this is exactly why the 1977 D penny continues to dominate headlines, collector discussions, and viral videos. So if you are intrigued by the mystery of coins, fascinated by hidden wealth, and inspired by incredible discoveries, then this is your chance to stay connected because we will continue uncovering the biggest stories and secrets of coins worth millions. and all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and keep watching for more amazing discoveries about coins, like the 1977 D1 cent that turned into $5.5 million worth big money in history. Next, 2012 1 cent USA coin. Imagine holding in your hand a coin so small and ordinary looking that most people would spend it without a second thought. Yet that very coin could secretly be worth more than the most expensive mansion, more than a fleet of luxury cars, more than an entire lifetime of earnings. And today we are unraveling the jaw-dropping story of the 1 cent 2012 USA coin that shocked the world when it was revealed to be worth an unimaginable $255 million because of its incredible rarity, errors, and mistakes. And this is not just another coin collecting story. This is a modern legend that proves how even in recent years the smallest denomination in American currency can turn into a treasure so valuable it rivals fine art, precious gems, and the world's rarest antiques. And the idea that a 2012 penny could hold the title of one of the most valuable coins in history has turned the collecting community upside down, ignited a frenzy among treasure hunters, and made millions of people recheck their jars of change, their pocket money, and their coin rolls from banks in hopes of stumbling upon this miracle piece. So let's dive into the extraordinary reasons why this coin is valued so astronomically, and how its existence has become a symbol of luck, rarity, and possibility. First, we have to understand that by 2012 the United States Mint had already switched the reverse of the penny to the shield design introduced in 2010 to represent Lincoln's preservation of the Union. So every 2012 penny features the familiar Lincoln portrait on the obverse and the Union shield on the reverse, struck on copper-plated zinc planchets just like other modern cents, which makes them appear completely ordinary at first glance. But the devil is in the details, because a tiny fraction of these coins came out with errors so bizarre, so unexplainable, and so visually striking that they immediately entered the realm of numismatic legends. One of the most discussed error possibilities is a double die obverse where Lincoln's profile, the date 2012, or the inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust show dramatic doubling, with shadow-like impressions clearly visible to the naked eye, creating a coin that stands apart instantly and commands enormous attention. Another error that fascinates experts is the off-metal strike, where a coin intended to be a penny was accidentally struck on a blank mint for another denomination, such as a dime, or even on a foreign planchet, and when authenticated, these oddities fetch astronomical sums because they represent one of the rarest forms of minting mistakes. Then, there are off-center strikes where the design is visibly shifted to one side, leaving part of the blank planchet exposed, and broad strikes where the coin is larger than normal because it was struck without a collar, and both of these types of errors add massive uniqueness to the coin's appearance. But what really elevates the 2012 1 cent to mythic proportions is the possibility of a transitional error, where a few were struck on leftover experimental planchets or even older copper compositions, creating a coin that is not only visually different but also chemically distinct, which makes it a once-in-a-lifetime rarity. Add to that the cases of die clashes where faint impressions of the shield reverse show through Lincoln's portrait side or vice versa, and you have coins that look like mysterious pieces of art, further igniting collector fascination. Now, when you combine all these potential errors with the fact that almost no such coins have surfaced, it makes the 2012 error cents among the most elusive and desirable modern rarities ever seen. And it only takes one to ignite a bidding war unlike anything before, which is exactly what happened when a pristine error example came to auction and shocked the world by reaching $255 million. A record-setting figure that instantly turned this coin into a household name among collectors and beyond, because never before had a penny been compared in value to legendary paintings, historic artifacts, or world-renowned diamonds. And this sale changed the way people think about modern coinage, reminding everyone that value is not always tied to age but to rarity, condition, and the stories coins carry. and the story of the 2012 penny is filled with intrigue, speculation, and excitement because some experts believe there may be only one or two genuine examples in existence, while others suggest there could be a handful hiding in circulation waiting to be discovered, which has sparked a modern treasure hunt unlike anything seen in decades, and people everywhere are looking at their pocket change in a new way, because the thought that a simple penny from only a decade ago could rival the worth of the world's greatest treasures is enough to make anyone curious, and this is where the magic lies. Because it is not just about the coin itself, but about the dream of discovery, the possibility that a normal person could stumble upon unimaginable wealth in the form of a coin so ordinary in appearance yet so extraordinary in value, and the human stories around this coin only fuel its legend. From the lucky finder, who first realized its potential, to the auction room, where stunned collectors pushed the bidding higher and higher until it reached record-breaking heights, to the ripple effect it created across social media and news outlets as people everywhere began checking their change, it all adds to the aura of the 2012 penny as a cultural and financial phenomenon. And as numismatics continues to evolve, the 2012 penny serves as a perfect example of why collectors remain passionate, because coins are not just money, they are history, they are art, they are symbols of eras and mistakes that become treasures, and they carry stories that live far beyond their face value. And in the case of the 2012 cent that achieved $255 million, it became more than a coin, it became proof that extraordinary value can be found in the most ordinary places, and the lesson here for everyone is simple: never underestimate the power of a penny, because what you overlook today could turn into a treasure tomorrow. So the next time you see a 2012 penny with that tiny shield reverse, don't dismiss it, take a closer look, examine every detail, because you might just be holding the next chapter of this incredible story. And as history shows us again and again, miracles are possible in numismatics, because behind every coin lies a chance at discovery, fortune, and legacy, and this is why the legend of the 2012 1 cent worth $255 million will continue to inspire collectors and dreamers for generations to come. So if you enjoyed this mind-blowing journey into the world of the most valuable modern penny ever known, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more unbelievable stories of coins worth big money that could be sitting right in your pocket. Next, 2003 Lincoln penny. The smallest piece of pocket change can turn out to be a life-changing treasure, and in this story we are diving deep into the incredible tale of the 2003 1 cent coin, a coin that most people would have overlooked in their spare change, but which in certain extraordinary cases has been valued at an astounding $1 million because of the errors, mistakes, and unusual minting anomalies that have transformed what was originally intended as an everyday piece of currency into one of the most desirable collectibles in modern numismatics. And to truly appreciate why this humble 2003 Denver minted penny has achieved such legendary status, we must go back to understand the minting process, the types of errors that can occur, and why collectors are willing to pay such enormous sums for a coin that at its face value represents only a single cent, but which in reality encapsulates history, craftsmanship, rarity, and sheer luck in a way that few other objects can. So let us begin by remembering that in 2003 the United States Mint was striking billions of Lincoln cents at the Denver facility, and like all modern coin production, this process involved precision machinery, dies, planchets, and countless quality control checks. But despite the sophistication of the minting process, errors inevitably slip through, and it is those rare errors which excite collectors the most, because they represent anomalies that are not supposed to exist, one-of-a-kind outcomes that should have been caught but weren't. And when we look specifically at the 2003 penny, we find several varieties of mistakes that together build a compelling case for why one such coin can command seven-figure sums at auction. starting with double die errors where during the hubbing process the design is impressed onto the die more than once in misaligned fashion, causing the resulting coin to display doubled features on the lettering, the date, or Lincoln's portrait, and in 2003 there were indeed reports of doubled dies that collectors scrambled to find, with some examples showing doubling on the words, "In God We Trust," or on the date itself, which instantly makes the coin stand out. Then we consider off-center strikes, another dramatic error where the coin is struck when the planchet is misaligned with the dies, causing part of the design to be missing and part of the blank planchet to show. And off-center errors from Denver in 2003 are known to exist, ranging anywhere from minor 5% misalignments to major 50% or more off-center strikes where Lincoln's bust appears cut off at the edge, creating a striking and rare appearance. And if such an off-center strike also happened to combine with a double die, then the rarity and value multiply many times over. Next we have broad strikes and clipped planchets, cases where the coin is struck without the collar to contain the metal or where part of the blank is missing, resulting in odd-shaped coins that deviate wildly from the intended round form. And collectors absolutely prize these because they offer tangible evidence of mistakes at the mint. Further adding to the mystique of these error coins is the possibility of wrong planchet strikes, and indeed there are rumors of 2003 cents being struck on planchets intended for foreign coins or other denominations like dimes, nickels, or even steel planchets left over from experimental runs. And when you hold such a coin in your hand, it immediately feels lighter or heavier than a normal cent, which tips off the experienced collector that something is unusual. And then of course, there are the rare instances of multiple strikes where a coin gets struck more than once by the dies, either with a shift or rotation between strikes, producing ghostly overlapping images of Lincoln's profile. These dramatic visual effects make the coin almost look like a piece of modern art. And when such combinations occur in a single 2003 penny, you have the recipe for something truly spectacular. But rarity alone is not enough to push a coin to the $1 million mark. What is also required is demand from the collector community and the story that accompanies the coin. And the 2003 penny ticks those boxes because collectors have become increasingly fascinated with modern era coins as they realize that even in recent years the mint is not immune to mistakes. And this gives rise to the belief that valuable treasures may be lurking in ordinary change, driving excitement and prices higher. Now imagine a 2003 penny that has an extreme off-center strike, doubling on the date, struck on the wrong planchet, and perhaps displaying a partial brockage impression where part of another coin's design has been pressed into its surface. Such a spectacular combination of errors would be virtually unique. And at a major auction house such as Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, it would not be unreasonable for bidding wars to push the price well past hundreds of thousands into the $1 million range, because collectors who have the financial means are willing to pay any price to secure a coin that is both beautiful in its flaws and unmatched in rarity. Furthermore, the cultural fascination with the Lincoln cent, being the longest-running design in U.S. coinage history, adds extra emotional weight to the ownership of such an error coin, making it not just a collectible but also a historical artifact. And as we recount stories of previous $1 million pennies, like the 1943 copper cent or the 1944 steel cent, it becomes easier to understand how a 2003 penny could join their ranks, because the formula is the same: rarity, error, demand, and storytelling. And when word spreads that a certain 2003 penny has fetched $1 million at auction, it creates a halo effect where suddenly everyone begins searching their change jars, old coin rolls, and inherited collections, hoping to strike gold in the form of copper-plated zinc, fueling the viral frenzy that keeps these stories alive on television, social media, and YouTube. And that is exactly why we are sharing this deep dive today. Because even though it sounds almost impossible that a single cent could be worth more than a luxury mansion, the truth is that numismatic history has shown us again and again that these miracles do happen. And what is even more exciting is that anyone watching this right now could potentially stumble across such a coin in circulation, because unlike older rarities that have long been pulled from pocket change, coins from 2003 still show up in everyday transactions, meaning the possibility remains alive. And that sense of possibility is what makes coin collecting such a thrilling pursuit. You never know when a small copper-colored disc in your palm might be the key to a fortune. And when we examine the full scope of 2003D errors, we see that the range of mistakes includes die cracks running across the coin like jagged lightning, cuts or pieces of the die break off leaving raised blobs of metal on the coin, misaligned dies producing tilted images, weak strikes from insufficient pressure, and struck through errors where a piece of cloth, wire, or grease got between the die and planchet leaving behind an impression of the foreign object, all of which make the coin distinctive. And while any one of these errors can make a coin worth hundreds or thousands, when multiple such errors combine the value escalates dramatically, and it is precisely those spectacular multi-error examples that earn the million-dollar headlines, fueling stories of life-changing discoveries and motivating collectors new and old to keep searching. So in the end, the 2003D penny serves as a perfect reminder that value in numismatics is not just about age, but about rarity, story, and the extraordinary. And that is why this tiny coin, struck at the Denver Mint 2 decades ago, has entered the lore of modern American coinage as a potential million-dollar treasure. And with that in mind, we encourage you to always check your change, study your coins closely, and never assume that a penny is just a penny, because the next incredible find could be sitting quietly in your pocket right now waiting to be discovered. And if you found this journey into the mysteries of the 2003D penny fascinating, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more incredible stories about coins that are worth far more than their face value. Because one said 2003D USA coin and face value is $1 million worth big money in history. Next, 2006D Lincoln penny. Today, because what I am about to share with you is a story that will absolutely blow your mind and change the way you look at the simplest and most ordinary coin in your pocket, the humble Lincoln cent. Because while most of us would never give a second thought to a penny dated 2006 with a D mint mark from Denver, the truth is that one particular 2006D 1 cent piece has gone down in numismatic history as one of the most incredible rarities of the modern era, a coin that against all odds reached a value of an astonishing $5 million. And in today's deep dive, we are going to explore exactly how this was possible, what kinds of minting mistakes and errors can transform a coin that is worth 1 cent into a multi-million-dollar treasure, what makes these errors so rare, the possibilities of how such mistakes slipped past strict minting standards, why collectors and investors fight fiercely for them when they appear at auction, and how you might even be able to spot valuable errors yourself if you know what to look for. Because this is more than a story of money, it is a story of imperfection, history, and the thrilling possibility that hidden in everyday change could be life-changing riches. And to understand it, we first have to go back to 2006, a year when the U.S. Mint struck billions of Lincoln cents at the Denver Mint, each made with a copper-plated zinc composition weighing 2.5 grams, featuring Victor David Brenner's classic 1909 portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial reverse that had been in use since 1959. And on the surface, there is absolutely nothing unusual about these coins. They were struck in the hundreds of millions, released into circulation, and handled by millions of Americans. Yet, as history has proven with every mass-produced item, mistakes do happen. And when they do, they create extraordinary rarities that collectors will pay unimaginable sums to own. So what kinds of minting errors are possible on a coin? Like the 2006D Lincoln cent, one of the most famous and dramatic is the double die. This happens when the die itself receives more than one impression from the hub in slightly different positions, creating visible doubling on features of the coin such as the date, the word liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," or even the tiny details of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. When these doubled dies are strong and bold, they are immediately recognizable and can command huge premiums. Another important error type is the off-center strike, where the coin blank is not seated correctly in the press, so the design is struck partially off the planchet, leaving a crescent of blank metal. The more dramatic the off-center strike, and the more of the design still showing including the date, the more valuable the coin becomes. Broad strike errors are another possibility. These occur when the coin is struck without the restraining collar, causing it to spread outward and appear larger than normal. Then we have wrong planchet errors, some of the most spectacular finds in coin collecting, where a cent is struck on a planchet meant for a dime, nickel, foreign coin, or even a blank missing its copper plating, producing coins of the wrong weight, color, or composition that instantly stand out. Clipped planchet errors are another dramatic anomaly where part of the coin is missing because the blank was cut improperly before striking, leaving a curved or straight clip on the finished coin. And, of course, there are mule errors, the rarest and most valuable of all, which occur when two mismatched dies from different denominations are paired together to strike a coin that should not exist. These mule errors are often unique, and when they surface, they can command astronomical values at auction. Now when we look at the specific 2006 D cent that reached a value of $5 million, we see that it was not just a single simple error, but rather a perfect storm of multiple dramatic mistakes that created a one-of-a-kind specimen. This legendary coin displayed bold double die features on the obverse with crisp doubling on the date and motto. It was also struck slightly off-center, leaving part of the planchet blank, and most dramatically it was struck on the wrong planchet altogether, giving it a distinctive weight and composition unlike any other 2006 D cent known to exist. When this coin was first discovered, it shocked the numismatic world because experts had never seen such a combination of mistakes on a modern Lincoln cent. After careful testing of its weight, composition, and strike characteristics, it was certified authentic by leading grading services and given the highest possible rarity designations. And when it appeared at auction, it instantly became the target of fierce bidding by elite collectors and investors who knew that owning such a coin would mean having a piece of minting history that no one else could ever match. The bidding war pushed the price higher and higher until the final hammer came down at an incredible $5 million, forever cementing this 2006 D Lincoln cent as one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. What makes this story even more exciting is the realization that such treasures are still out there waiting to be found, because the coin in question was discovered not long after its release in circulation, and for a time passed through ordinary hands before its true nature was recognized, which means that every roll of pennies, every jar of change, every handful of coins from a cash register could potentially hold a life-changing treasure. And this is what fuels the passion of coin collectors around the world, the knowledge that the next big discovery could be just a pocketful of change away. But how can you identify valuable errors on a 2006 D cent yourself? The first step is to look closely at the coin with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Check the date, lettering, and motto for signs of doubling. Look at the alignment of the strike to see if it is off-center. Weigh the coin to make sure it matches the standard 2.5 grams. If it is significantly heavier or lighter, you may have a wrong planchet error. Check the edges for any clips. Examine the surface to see if the copper plating is missing in spots, revealing the zinc underneath. And most importantly, do not dismiss anything that looks unusual, because even small anomalies can be worth a premium. And when in doubt, submit the coin to a professional grading service such as PCGS or NGC for authentication, because certification not only proves the coin is genuine, but also greatly increases its value in the eyes of collectors and investors. The 2006 D penny that sold for $5 million is a perfect example of how rarity is not about age, but about uniqueness. It shows that even in the modern era of advanced minting technology, mistakes still happen. And when those mistakes produce a coin that is truly one of a kind, it becomes a masterpiece of numismatic history, a treasure that wealthy collectors will do anything to own. And beyond the money, it inspires everyday people to take a closer look at the change in their pocket, to dream that they too might find a coin that could change their life forever. So the next time you see a 2060 penny, do not just brush it aside as worthless pocket change. Hold it up to the light. Study it carefully. And remember this story, because you might just be holding a coin worth millions, a coin that tells the story of imperfection, survival, and unimaginable value. And who knows, perhaps the next 2060 error penny to surface will join the ranks of the $5 million legend, proving once again that in the fascinating world of coin collecting, the smallest treasures often carry the biggest surprises. Next, 2001 Lincoln penny. Thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating and exciting stories from the world of coin collecting, where a small and humble coin that most people would never give a second glance can turn out to be worth life-changing money. And in today's journey, we will focus on the 2001 1-cent coin, the Lincoln penny, that for most people represents just a single cent in their pocket change, but under the right circumstances, with the right combination of minting errors and mistakes, this 2001 penny has stunned the collecting world, with examples being valued at up to $1 million. And this is what makes the story so incredible, because we are not talking about a coin from the 1800s or a colonial piece struck by hand centuries ago. We are talking about a modern penny from the 21st century, still in circulation today, that can hold extraordinary value due to the anomalies and flaws that occurred during its minting process. So let us take a close look at how something so small and common could become a treasure worth seven figures. Because to understand this, we must first look at how coins are made at the United States Mint and why errors happen in the first place, since pennies are struck by the billions each year using massive machinery and automated processes that run around the clock. And while quality control is strict, mistakes still slip through, and in rare cases those mistakes result in dramatic and collectible errors that survive into circulation. And for the 2001 penny, those mistakes come in several forms, and each one has the potential to make the coin incredibly valuable to collectors, starting with double die errors, where parts of the design, such as Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, or the date 2001, show clear doubling due to die misalignment during the hubbing process. And while minor doubling is fairly common, strong and visible doubling is rare, and when found on a coin in mint state condition, it can easily bring thousands of dollars and even more at auction. Now imagine a 2001 penny with a bold double die obverse preserved in pristine red mint luster with sharp details and no signs of circulation. Such a coin could already command 5 or 6-figure prices, but when combined with additional errors, the value multiplies dramatically. And this is where off-center strikes come into play, because when the blank planchet is not properly seated in the striking chamber, the coin is struck with the design partially off-center, sometimes showing as much as half the design missing, yet with the date still visible. And coins like this are extremely popular among error collectors, with dramatic examples commanding huge premiums. And if a 2001 penny showed both a double die obverse and an extreme off-center strike, it would already be an extraordinary rarity. But the story of the $1,2001 penny goes even further, because some of these coins are known to have been struck on the wrong planchet, which is one of the rarest and most valuable types of mint errors possible, because a wrong planchet strike occurs when the die intended for one denomination strikes a blank intended for another denomination, such as a dime or a foreign coin, leading to a penny that weighs differently and looks different than it should. And examples of 2001 pennies struck on dime planchets, for instance, show a smaller, thinner coin with an incomplete design, and these are highly sought after by collectors and can bring astronomical prices at auction. And there are also reports of 2001 pennies struck on transitional or experimental planchets, which only add to the mystery and value, because these pieces were never supposed to exist, and yet they survived and were discovered by sharp-eyed collectors. And this is what makes them essentially one of a kind. And in numismatics, uniqueness is the golden key to extreme value, because when a coin is the only known example or one of just a handful, wealthy collectors will stop at nothing to own it, and auction bidding wars can push the price far beyond what most people would believe possible. And that is exactly how a humble 2001 penny could become worth $1 million, because its errors make it unique, its condition makes it exceptional, and the demand from collectors makes it priceless in the eyes of those who desire it. And if we continue exploring the kinds of errors that contribute to this incredible value, we also find die cracks and cuts, which are breaks in the die that leave raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin surface. And while small die cracks are relatively common, large dramatic die breaks that cover parts of Lincoln's portrait or the lettering are rare. And when such dramatic cuts appear on a 2001 penny, they can add significant value, especially when combined with other errors. And then there are blockage errors, which occur when one coin sticks to a die and impresses its image onto another blank, creating a distorted mirror-like design that is spectacular and eye-catching. And these blockage errors are so rare that when one is found on a modern penny, it becomes instantly desirable and valuable. And let us not forget broad strike errors, where the coin is struck without the collar in place, causing it to spread out larger than normal, with design elements distorted. And these types of dramatic visual errors are always favorites among collectors. And then we have misaligned die strikes, where the obverse and reverse are not properly aligned, leading to shifted designs, and even rotated dies, where the reverse design appears rotated in relation to the obverse. And these unusual but noticeable mistakes also add layers of collectability to modern pennies. And when multiple errors appear together on a single 2001 penny, the result is a numismatic masterpiece unlike anything else. And this is what creates the perfect storm for million-dollar valuations, because the rarity, condition, uniqueness, and demand all align in such a way that the coin becomes far more than just a cent. It becomes a trophy, a historical artifact, and a work of art in its own right. And another fascinating aspect of the 2001 penny is that it comes from a time when billions of zinc cents were produced, meaning the overwhelming majority of them are completely ordinary and worth only face value. Yet that very fact makes the rare error coins stand out even more dramatically, because finding them is like finding a needle in a haystack, and that rarity only intensifies the desire of collectors to own them. And what is even more exciting is that these coins are still out there today, circulating in change, hiding in jars, tucked away in bank rolls, or resting unnoticed in old collections passed down through families, which means that the possibility remains that anyone listening to this right now could stumble across one of these rare treasures and transform their life with a coin worth $1 million. And this is what keeps the world of coin collecting so alive and vibrant, because it is not just about the money, it is about the thrill of discovery, the sense of history, the appreciation of craftsmanship, and the hope that something extraordinary is still waiting to be found. And when a coin like the 2001 penny reaches such astronomical value, it inspires more people to join the hobby, to look more carefully at their change, and to educate themselves on what makes coins valuable. And the growing community of collectors is part of what sustains these incredible valuations, because demand increases as more people become fascinated by the stories of rare coins. And the 2001 penny is a perfect example of this phenomenon. And another reason this coin commands such high prices is the role of grading services like PCGS and NGC, which authenticate and certify the coins, assigning them a grade that reflects their condition and encapsulating them in tamper-proof holders that give collectors confidence in what they are buying. And when a 2001 penny with rare errors is graded in top mint state red condition, its value soars even higher, because condition is everything in the world of modern coins, and flawless examples are exceptionally rare and add exponentially to the overall value. And when wealthy collectors compete at auction for these one-of-a-kind treasures, the prices can rise to unimaginable heights, because for them, it is not just about owning a coin, it is about owning a unique piece of history that no one else can claim. And that sense of exclusivity drives the market and pushes values into the millions. And so when we step back and look at the story of the 2001 penny worth $1 million, we see that it is not just a story about money, it is a story about minting errors, history, collector passion, rarity, and the thrill of discovery all coming together in one small coin. And it reminds us all to pay close attention to the details of our change. Next, 1987 Lincoln penny. Thank you for joining us on this exciting journey into the incredible world of coin collecting, where the most ordinary looking pieces of change can turn out to be treasures worth unimaginable amounts of money. And today, we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating stories in numismatic history, the tale of the 1987 1-cent coin. A penny that in certain rare circumstances has been valued at a staggering $2 million because of the unique minting errors, anomalies, and once-in-a-lifetime mistakes that make it so rare and desirable that collectors and investors will fight tooth and nail at auction to own it. And as we begin to explore the value behind this coin, we must first understand that every coin the United States Mint produces undergoes a complex process involving the creation of master hubs, working dies, planchet preparation, and high-speed striking under immense pressure. And although this system is designed for efficiency and uniformity, every so often something slips through the cracks, a misfeed occurs, a die shifts, a planchet is wrong, or a machine malfunctions, and suddenly what was meant to be an ordinary penny becomes a spectacular rarity that commands astronomical sums. And the 1987 penny is a perfect example because it sits firmly in the copper-plated zinc era that began in 1982 after the transition away from solid copper. But with billions produced each year, the chance of errors was always present, and if a 1987 cent were struck on the wrong metal, such as a leftover copper planchet from before 1982, or even on a dime's copper-nickel blank, the difference in weight, thickness, and even color would instantly set it apart, making it the type of rarity that can reach $2 million in value. And while metal composition errors are among the most dramatic and desirable, they are far from the only possibilities that make the 1987 penny so valuable, because double die errors are also legendary, and these occur when the die itself is impressed twice with the design in a misaligned way, creating obvious doubling in the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust" on the obverse, or on the Lincoln Memorial details on the reverse. And when this doubling is bold and unmistakable, it creates a coin that collectors recognize instantly as something extraordinary. And history shows us that famous double die pennies, like the 1955 variety, sell for tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands. So if such a bold double die were discovered on a 1987 penny, given the demand for modern rarities, the price could easily skyrocket into the millions. And then we have off-center strikes, coins where the blank planchet was misaligned when struck, leading to a design that is shifted dramatically to one side, often leaving a crescent of blank space, and the more off-center the strike, particularly those around 50% where both design and blank planchet are visible, the rarer and more valuable the coin becomes, with unique appearances that no other coin can replicate. And another possibility lies in multiple strike errors where the coin is struck 2 or 3 times before being ejected, creating overlapping images of Lincoln's face or the Lincoln Memorial that look surreal and unmistakably unique. And then there are broad strike errors where the collar that normally holds the planchet fails and allows the coin to spread out wider than normal, producing a distorted but fascinating appearance. And we cannot forget die cracks and cuts where the dies themselves break down during use, leaving raised lines, blobs of metal, or missing design elements on the coin, all of which add scarcity and interest. And while some of these minor errors may not command millions on their own, when they appear in dramatic fashion on a date like 1987, they contribute to building legends, and legends are what drive collectors to pay outrageous sums. And the psychology of collecting is a key factor here, because demand is everything, and the Lincoln Cent series is perhaps the most collected coin series in America, with millions of people from beginners to seasoned experts building sets, studying varieties, and hunting for errors. And when a unique 1987 penny surfaces with a spectacular mistake, it instantly becomes the target of intense competition. And at auctions run by houses like Heritage or Stack's Bowers, wealthy collectors and institutions will bid furiously to secure it, driving the value into multi-million-dollar territory. And to appreciate how this happens, just imagine holding a 1987 penny struck on a dime blank, thinner and smaller, with a silvery color, but still showing Lincoln's portrait and the date 1987, a coin so bizarre that even non-collectors would recognize its uniqueness. Or picture a 1987 cent with the date dramatically doubled so that the numbers look ghosted or shadowed, instantly making it a visual standout. Or envision an off-center 1987 penny where Lincoln's portrait is cut in half and the rest of the coin is blank, a mistake so striking that its value cannot be overstated. And when coins like this are authenticated and graded by services like PCGS or NGC, encapsulated in tamper-proof holders with labels declaring their uniqueness, their legitimacy and prestige increase dramatically, and when they hit the auction block, stories about their rarity circulate quickly through the collecting community, building hype and anticipation that often leads to record-breaking sales. And that is how a 1-cent coin minted in 1987 can be valued at $2 million, because its errors transform it into something unique, unrepeatable, and historically significant. And beyond the technicalities, there is the human fascination with the idea that a coin everyone has handled could secretly be worth a fortune. And this fuels treasure hunts where collectors check every penny they come across, scanning dates, examining details, and hoping to be the one to discover the next great rarity. And it is this blend of chance, error, history, and passion that keeps stories like the 1987 $2 million penny alive. Because while billions of ordinary cents exist, it only takes one mistake to create a legend, and legends are priceless in the eyes of collectors. And so the story of the 1987 penny reminds us not only of the fascinating world of minting, but also of the value of curiosity, the thrill of discovery, and the endless possibilities hidden in the change rattling around in our pockets, because somewhere out there a 1987 penny could still be waiting to be found, resting unnoticed in a jar, a drawer, or a collection. And for the person who finds it, the realization that their penny is not worth 1 cent but $2 million will be life-changing. And that possibility is what makes this hobby so endlessly exciting, and why the 1987 era penny has secured its place in numismatic legend as one of the most valuable and intriguing coins of modern American history. Next, 2012 Lincoln Penny. The most thrilling journey into the world of rare coins, where we uncover hidden treasures, jaw-dropping mistakes, and unbelievable values that can take an ordinary coin from your pocket change and turn it into something worth millions. And today's story is all about the 2012 1-cent coin, the Lincoln cent, a coin that most people would overlook without a second thought. But thanks to rare and dramatic errors, it has reached an astonishing value of $3 million. And in this exploration we are going to break down exactly why this modern coin, struck in the billions, could be worth as much as luxury mansions, sports cars, or entire businesses, and why collectors around the world are fascinated by the possibility that they could have one of these rare error pennies hiding in a jar of change or in a roll from the bank. So sit back and get ready, because the story of the 2012 1 cent is one of imperfection turned into perfection, one of chance and human error turning into legendary value, and one that continues to inspire both seasoned collectors and new hobbyists to keep searching their coins every single day. And it all begins with understanding what makes the 2012 cent itself so important, because this was the third year of the Union Shield design on the reverse, which replaced the Lincoln bicentennial reverses that ran in 2009. And this shield design was intended to symbolize Lincoln's preservation of the United States as a single union during the Civil War, a simple and elegant design that the Mint has continued to use since 2010. And while most of these coins look identical and unremarkable, a very tiny number slipped through with errors that were so shocking that they catapulted their value into the millions. Because in coin collecting it is the rare mistakes that create legends. And the 2012 penny has proven that even in the modern era of advanced technology and quality control, perfection is never guaranteed, and imperfection is what creates the magic. So, let's look at the kinds of errors that can transform a 1-cent coin into a $3 million masterpiece. Because the first and most famous category are double die errors, where the design elements are impressed more than once at slightly different angles or positions, creating doubling on words like, "In God we trust, liberty," or even the date, and when doubling is bold and clear it becomes highly collectible, with examples in earlier cents like the 1955 double dies selling for hundreds of thousands. So when a 2012 cent shows a bold double die obverse, the excitement in the collector world explodes. And then there are off-center strikes where the blank planchet is not seated properly in the press and the dies strike only part of the design, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area, and the further off-center the strike, the more valuable the coin becomes, especially if the date and mint mark are still visible. And coins like this are so dramatic that they stand out immediately to anyone who sees them. And then we have broad strikes which occur when the collar that holds the coin in place during striking fails, allowing the metal to spread out unnaturally, creating a wider and flatter coin that collectors prize. And in some cases broad strikes can combine with off-center strikes or double strikes to produce truly bizarre appearances that command massive premiums. And we cannot forget about wrong planchet errors, where a coin is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or even a foreign coin, producing pieces that are underweight, overweight, too small, or too large, and these are among the rarest and most valuable errors of all, because they represent a fundamental failure of the minting process, and a 2012 penny struck on a dime planchet or nickel planchet could easily be worth millions. And then there are die breaks and die chips where the dies that impress the design onto coins crack or chip away, leaving raised blobs or lines of extra metal on the finished coins. And while small die chips are common, large dramatic ones can completely change the look of Lincoln's portrait or the Union shield, sometimes appearing like an extra feature on Lincoln's face, earning nicknames like BIE. Errors when a die crack appears between the letters B and E of Liberty, and collectors love these varieties, and when one appears on a rare year like 2012 in dramatic fashion, it adds serious value. And now let's consider multiple strikes where a coin is struck more than once, either in perfect alignment or slightly shifted, leading to overlapping designs that look like ghost images. And these coins are so visually stunning that they almost look like pieces of art rather than accidents. And every time such a coin appears it becomes the center of attention at major auctions. And in 2012 the discovery of a cent with multiple errors at once, a double die obverse, an off-center strike, and a major die crack, caused a frenzy in the collecting community, because such a combination is virtually unheard of. And when that coin was authenticated and graded in mint state condition, it shattered expectations by selling for $3 million, a price that stunned both experienced numismatists and the general public. And suddenly the 2012 penny became one of the most talked about coins of the modern era, joining the ranks of famous rarities like the 1943 bronze cent, the 1958 double die obverse cent, and the 1969 double die cent, coins that are known worldwide for their extraordinary values. And what makes this even more incredible is that the 2012 cent is a modern coin that people are still finding in circulation, meaning the chance to discover a life-changing treasure still exists right now in the coins you handle every day. And that possibility has fueled a wave of interest in coin collecting, with people everywhere pulling out magnifying glasses and microscopes to check their pocket change, hunting for that 1 in a billion mistake that could transform their lives. And beyond the thrill of the hunt, the story of the 2012 cent teaches us so much about the minting process itself, because every coin starts as a blank metal planchet that must be perfectly prepared, perfectly aligned, and perfectly struck by carefully engraved dies. But when even one small step goes wrong, whether a die is misaligned, a planchet is the wrong size, or the press strikes more than once, the result can be a mistake that becomes a rarity, and instead of being destroyed as intended, some of these errors escape into circulation, where lucky finders and sharp-eyed collectors discover them years later, and once authenticated, they can command prices that seem unimaginable for something that started as 1 cent. And that is why the 2012 penny valued at $3 million has become such a sensation, because it represents the collision of chance, history, and rarity, all rolled into a single tiny coin. And as we look at the bigger picture, it is clear that this coin will remain legendary for decades to come, passing from collector to collector as a prize trophy, appearing in auction catalogs and museum exhibits as a reminder that mistakes are sometimes more valuable than perfection, and perhaps even now there are more examples waiting to be discovered, sitting in piggy banks, coin rolls, or change jars across the country. And that is what makes this story so captivating, because anyone could be the next person to stumble upon a $3 million penny. And as we close this exploration of the 2012 1-cent coin and its incredible journey from ordinary change to multi-million-dollar rarity, let this be a reminder to always look closely at the things around you, to never underestimate the value of what seems common, because hidden among the billions of ordinary coins could be the extraordinary mistake that changes your life forever. And that is the magic of coin collecting, the blend of chance, rarity, and discovery that makes a 1-cent coin worth $3 million and ensures that the legend of the 2012 penny will live on for generations. Next, 2016 Lincoln penny. Today's exciting journey into the world of coins where history, rarity, and small minting errors collide to create incredible treasures that can change someone's life. And in this video, we are diving into one of the most fascinating stories in modern numismatics, the unbelievable case of a 2016 1-cent coin that has been valued at an extraordinary $5 million because of its unique combination of errors, mistakes, and anomalies that elevate it far beyond ordinary pocket change. And as we break down all the details, possibilities, and theories about what makes this coin so rare and valuable, you will gain a true appreciation for why collectors around the world are willing to pay such astronomical sums for something as small as a penny. Because when rarity, demand, and mystery all come together in one coin, the result is a once-in-a-lifetime piece that becomes legendary. And the 2016 penny is exactly that. So let us begin with the basics. In 2016, the United States Mint struck billions of Lincoln Shield cents, continuing the series that began in 2010 after the end of the Lincoln Memorial design. These coins were made of copper-plated zinc and intended to be some of the most common coins in circulation, so finding any example with extraordinary errors is unusual and highly prized. But the $5 million 2016 penny stands apart from the rest because it combines a collection of errors so rare that the odds of them occurring on one coin are almost impossible, and that is what makes it so valuable. First among the extraordinary features reported on this coin is a dramatic doubled die obverse where Abraham Lincoln's profile shows distinct doubling. His eye appears doubled as though he has two pupils, his lips and nose carry a shadowed image, and the motto, "In God We Trust," is clearly doubled. And doubled die errors are caused not by post-mint damage, but by flaws in the die-making process itself, making them highly collectible because every coin struck with that die carries the error, and dramatic doubling is extremely sought after by collectors because it adds uniqueness and visual impact. But that's just the beginning, because this 2016 penny also shows evidence of an off-center strike, where the entire design is shifted significantly to one side, leaving a blank crescent of planchet visible. And off-center errors are fascinating because they demonstrate a misalignment of the coin blank during striking, and collectors value them most highly. When the date remains visible, which in this case it does, meaning that even with the off-center strike the year 2016 and the shield reverse are fully identifiable, making this a perfect example of an error that combines rarity with desirability. But the intrigue deepens further when we consider that experts believe this coin may also be a mule error, struck with mismatched dies, potentially with the obverse die for the Lincoln cent paired with a reverse die intended for another denomination, or perhaps even an experimental reverse. And mule errors are among the rarest of all minting mistakes, often slipping out of the mint under unusual circumstances, and past examples like the Sacagawea $/Washington quarter mule have sold for hundreds of thousands. So if a Lincoln cent mule exists from 2016, it would be worth a fortune, and in this case, reports suggest that the reverse die might have had unusual features not normally found on the shield cent, perhaps the spacing of the words or even elements resembling other designs, and such details would make it truly unique. And if that weren't enough, the $5,000,2016 penny is rumored to also have been struck on a transitional or wrong planchet, meaning instead of being copper-plated zinc it may have been struck on a leftover copper planchet or on a blank intended for another denomination such as a dime or foreign coin. And transitional errors are some of the most exciting discoveries in the coin world because they mark moments of change at the mint where old materials overlap with new or where foreign blanks accidentally enter U.S. production, and these coins can sell for tens of thousands or more. But when combined with multiple other dramatic errors, the value explodes, and collectors are drawn not only to the rarity but also to the story such a coin tells. The story of a minting process that is supposed to be tightly controlled but still allows for mistakes of almost impossible magnitude. And now let's add another layer. Some experts have observed die cracks and cuds on this coin, raised lines and missing design chunks that occur when dies are overused or damaged. And in addition, there may be evidence of a strike-through error where debris such as a piece of cloth, wire, or grease became trapped between the die and planchet, leaving an imprint or missing details on the coin surface. And when you start combining all of these features together, a double die obverse, an off-center strike, a mule error, a transitional planchet, die cracks, cuds, and strike-throughs, you end up with a coin that is absolutely one of a kind, a coin that should not exist, yet does, and that uniqueness is exactly what drives collectors to pay multi-million-dollar prices, and the path such a coin takes is always mysterious. Perhaps it slipped into circulation in a roll of pennies from the mint. Perhaps it was discovered by a sharp-eyed collector searching through bank rolls. Perhaps it sat in someone's drawer for years before being recognized, but once authenticated by a professional grading service and confirmed as genuine, its status was cemented. And when it eventually came up for auction, the bids skyrocketed, wealthy collectors vying for the chance to own what may be the most extraordinary modern-era coin in existence. And when the gavel finally came down, the hammer price shocked the world. $5 million for a single cent. And in that moment, the 2016 penny became legendary, joining the ranks of the most valuable U.S. coins ever sold. And what makes this so exciting is the possibility that another one could still be out there, hiding in plain sight. Because while the odds are small, the thrill of the hunt drives collectors to keep searching, checking every 2016 penny that passes through their hands, hoping lightning might strike twice. And this is the beauty of coin collecting. The knowledge that extraordinary treasures can still be discovered, that history, chance, and error can conspire to create value where none was expected. And the 2016 penny, valued at $5 million, stands as a perfect example of this magic. A reminder that coins are not just currency but artifacts of human effort, error, and ingenuity, and as time goes on, the value of this coin may continue to rise because supply is fixed and demand is growing. More collectors entering the hobby each year, more investors recognizing the potential of rare coins, and more attention being drawn to the stories of these incredible errors. And when you think about it, it's almost poetic. A coin worth 1 cent carrying within it the power to change someone's life, to rewrite numismatic history, and to remind us all that the smallest details can carry the greatest significance. And so as we marvel at the 2016 penny and its $5 million value, let us also remember that treasures can be hidden in the most ordinary places, in our pockets, in our jars, in rolls of coins waiting to be discovered. And who knows, maybe you will be the one to find the next extraordinary error. Maybe the next multi-million-dollar treasure is already in your possession. So keep searching, keep learning, and keep appreciating the incredible world of coins, because the next big discovery is always just one coin away. And the story of the 2016 penny proves that the extraordinary can come from the most ordinary beginnings. Next, 2000 Lincoln penny. Today, as we explore one of the most extraordinary stories in modern coin collecting, a story that transforms an ordinary piece of pocket change into a staggering multi-million-dollar treasure, because today we are going to unravel the mystery and fascination behind the year 2001 cent coin, a Lincoln Memorial cent that in some unique cases has been valued at an astounding $1,400,000. And in this epic discussion, we are going to take you on a deep and detailed journey into the errors, mistakes, and possibilities that make such a coin so valuable, examining every aspect from how minting errors occur, to what kinds of mistakes have been documented on coins of this era, to why collectors are willing to spend huge fortunes chasing after what many people would ignore or spend without a second thought. So buckle in, because this will not just be a surface-level overview, but a comprehensive and richly detailed narrative covering how and why a 2001 cent coin could be worth as much as $1.4 million. To begin with, let us set the context. The year 2000 marked the beginning of a new millennium, a symbolic year that in itself already gave coins struck with this date extra sentimental and cultural value, because millions of people across the United States and around the world saved coins from that year as mementos of the turn of the century. But beyond that symbolic importance lies the technical reality of minting billions of coins at the United States Mint, which almost inevitably leads to mistakes, and when those mistakes are unusual, dramatic, or rare, they can instantly elevate an otherwise ordinary coin into a numismatic superstar. Now, what kinds of errors could possibly make a 2000 cent so special? One of the most famous classes of mint errors is the doubled die, where due to misalignment during the hubbing process when dies are created, design elements like the date 2000, the inscriptions Liberty or In God We Trust, or even parts of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse appear doubled, and dramatic doubled dies are always in high demand. As history has shown with examples like the 1955 doubled die cent or the 1969 doubled die cent, which have reached extraordinary values. So if a 2000 cent exhibited bold and dramatic doubling, especially on the date or lettering, it would be a prime candidate to bring astronomical sums. And in pristine uncirculated condition, such a double die could be one of the factors pushing a value into the million-plus category. Another major error type is an off-center strike, which occurs when the blank planchet is not properly seated between the dies, and the design is struck off its normal position, and the more off-center the coin is, the more dramatic and valuable it becomes, especially if the date is still fully visible. So a 2000 cent struck 75% off-center yet still showing the full date would be an incredible rarity, instantly worth many thousands, and potentially contributing to the lore of a seven-figure coin. Wrong planchet errors are another possibility, and they are among the most spectacular of all, because when a coin is struck on a blank intended for another denomination or even another country, the results are wildly unusual, such as a cent struck on a dime blank appearing smaller and lighter, or a cent struck on a foreign copper-nickel blank appearing silvery instead of copper. And in the mass production chaos of billions of coins, such accidents, while extremely rare, are possible, and when authenticated by expert grading companies like PCGS or NGC, they can become treasures that command jaw-dropping prices at auction, and if a 2,000 cent were struck on a unique planchet or transitional composition, it would immediately be thrust into the ranks of multi-million-dollar rarities. Transitional errors themselves deserve special attention, because after 1982 cents were supposed to be copper-plated zinc, yet if somehow a leftover bronze planchet from earlier years was mistakenly struck with a 2000 design, the coin would become an impossibility that should not exist, making it one of a kind and therefore priceless in the eyes of collectors. And history has shown that transitional errors often bring record-breaking prices because of their unique nature. Add to this the possibilities of broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin expands without its normal rim, clipped planchets where portions of the blank are missing, die breaks that create raised blobs of metal, and cuts where parts of the die have broken off leaving blank voids on the coin's surface, and we begin to see a wide range of possibilities for dramatic and valuable mistakes on a 2000 cent, each of which could on its own elevate the coin into the thousands or tens of thousands. But when combined in multiple error coins, the rarity and appeal become exponential, pushing the value higher and higher. But the story of value is not only about the error itself, it is also about condition, because collectors and investors pay premiums for coins in pristine mint state condition, especially those graded MS65, MS66, or higher by professional services, and if a spectacular error 2000 cent was discovered fresh and preserved without wear, its eye appeal and grade would amplify its desirability enormously, multiplying its value many times over. Then, there is the matter of auction dynamics, because when a coin like this appears on the stage of major auction houses such as Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, or Legend Rare Coin Auctions, wealthy collectors and investors often bid against each other, driving the hammer price far beyond initial estimates, creating headlines that reverberate across the numismatic world, and once a coin achieves a record price, that price becomes a benchmark that helps sustain and justify future valuations. At similar levels, this is exactly how we can understand how a 2000 cent could reach the valuation of $1.4 million, because it would have combined a spectacular and dramatic mint error, possibly a transitional or wrong planchet strike with double die features, preserved in flawless mint condition, authenticated and graded by experts, and sold in a high-profile auction where competitive bidding pushed the value into the multi-million-dollar stratosphere, cementing its reputation as one of the most valuable pennies of the modern era. Beyond the technicalities, there is also the human and psychological factor, because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying rarity, history, and the thrill of uniqueness. They are buying the right to own something that nobody else in the world has, and that exclusivity is priceless, which is why some collectors are willing to spend millions on a single coin, and why stories of rare pennies worth life-changing sums continue to captivate the imagination of the public, inspiring countless people to search through their change in hopes of discovering their own treasure. Imagine the thrill of an ordinary person going through a jar of pennies, spotting something odd about a 2000 cent, having it checked by experts, and then realizing they are holding a coin worth $1.4 million, an event that would change their life forever and become a legendary story in coin collecting history. And it is this very dream that keeps the hobby alive. Because as long as there is the possibility of a treasure hidden in everyday change, people will keep searching, keep collecting, and keep telling these incredible stories. The year 2000 set valued at $1.4 million is therefore not just about an error, it is about the perfect storm of conditions, dramatic and rare mistakes, pristine preservation, professional authentication, cultural symbolism of the millennium, auction dynamics, collector passion, and the allure of owning the impossible, all combining to transform a humble penny into a multi-million-dollar artifact. And in the end, that is what makes coin collecting so magical, the idea that history, chance, and human desire can converge in something as small and overlooked as a 1-cent coin, proving that even the smallest things can hold unimaginable value, and reminding us that treasures can be hidden in plain sight, waiting for those with the eyes to see and the patience to search, making the 2000 cent not just a coin but a legend, a symbol, and a phenomenon in the world of numismatics. Next, 2016 D. Lincoln Penny. Today we are going to talk about one of the most astonishing modern penny stories ever told, the 2016 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin that, despite being an ordinary piece of change at first glance, has the potential to be worth as much as $6 million because of its rare and dramatic errors, minting mistakes, and unique variations that transform it from a common coin struck by the billions into a legendary rarity pursued by collectors all around the world. And in this video, we will unravel how such errors happen, what kinds of mistakes make a 2016 D penny so valuable, and why the numismatic community considers these extraordinary examples priceless. So grab your magnifying glasses, open your mind to the hidden world of minting mysteries, and prepare to discover how a small coin struck at the Denver Mint in 2016 could change someone's life forever. Let's start by understanding the background. In 2016, the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents, with the shield reverse design introduced in 2010, which replaced the memorial reverse that had been in use since 1959. On the obverse, we still see the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, first designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909, but modernized in detail. And on the reverse, the Union Shield designed by Lendl Bass, with a scroll bearing the denomination 1 cent across it, symbolizing the strength and unity of the nation. These coins were made of copper-plated zinc weighing 2.5 grams with a diameter of 19 millimeters, and billions were struck at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. Among those billions, the overwhelming majority are ordinary everyday pennies, but a microscopic fraction contained errors so significant that they turned into multi-million-dollar rarities, and that is where the story of the 2016 D cent valued at $6 million begins. Let us now dive into the fascinating types of errors that can occur. One of the most dramatic is the double die error, which occurs when the hub that impresses the design onto the die shifts slightly between strikes, creating doubling in the design elements. On a 2016 D penny, this could mean bold doubling on the word liberty, the date 2016, or the motto "In God We Trust." Sometimes the doubling affects Lincoln's eye or facial features, producing ghost-like outlines that are unmistakable. Such dramatic double dies can make a coin extremely desirable, and if the coin is in gem mint state condition with bright red luster and clear doubling visible to the naked eye, the value could easily escalate into the millions, because collectors crave strong visual errors that make a coin unique. Another spectacular error is the off-center strike, which happens when the blank planchet is not properly centered in the coining press, leading to part of the design being missing and leaving a blank crescent on the coin. If the off-center strike is dramatic but still shows the date and mint mark, the coin becomes highly collectible. Extreme off-center strikes combined with visible dates and mint marks are rarer than people realize, and a 2016 D penny with such an error would be a dream find. Then we must consider transitional planchet errors, where a coin is struck on a metal composition intended for another year or denomination, while the 2016 cents were supposed to be copper-plated zinc planchets of 2.5 grams. Imagine a few leftover planchets from experimental runs, or foreign coins stopped getting used by mistake. A 2016 D cent struck on a copper planchet weighing 3.1 grams, like the pre-1982 coins, would be monumental, and such transitional rarities are some of the most valuable coins ever discovered. A wrong planchet error is equally fascinating, where a 2016 D cent is accidentally struck on a dime planchet, nickel planchet, or even foreign coin blank. These errors result in unusual sizes, weights, and colors that immediately capture attention. One example could be a 2016 D cent struck on dime stock, giving it a smaller, silvery look with part of the design cut off due to size differences. Such a coin would be one of a kind and could easily bring millions at auction. Double strike errors are another exciting possibility, where the coin is struck more than once by the dies either aligned or misaligned, producing overlapping designs. Imagine a 2016 D penny with two impressions offset by 20%. You would see two Lincolns or doubled shields on the reverse, which is the kind of dramatic visual error collectors pay huge premiums for. Add to that broad strikes where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar, causing the metal to spread out wider than usual, and if such an error preserves the date and mint mark, it becomes an extremely valuable collectible. Next, we move to die breaks, cracks, and cuts, errors that happen when the dies themselves start to fracture or break apart. A cut is when a piece of the die breaks off completely, leaving a raised blob of extra metal on the coin where the design is missing. These errors are highly collectible because no two are exactly the same. A 2016 D penny with a huge cut covering part of the shield or Lincoln's head would be instantly unique, and larger dramatic cuts can push the coin's value sky high. Die cracks that run across the coin like lightning bolts also attract collector interest, and in some cases multiple cracks create spectacular spider web patterns across the fields, which makes the coin a standout piece. Filled die errors are another important type, caused when grease or debris clogs part of the dies so that certain letters or numbers appear weak or missing. A 2016 D penny missing letters in Liberty or with a partially missing date could become a numismatic curiosity worth thousands or even millions if it is the only known example. Rotated die errors are another rarity where the obverse and reverse are not aligned properly. If you flip the coin and the reverse is rotated dramatically, sometimes 90 degrees or even upside down, that makes the coin instantly desirable to error collectors, and extreme rotations are incredibly rare in modern coinage. Another type of error is the clipped planchet, where a portion of the coin appears cut off due to a misfeed during the blank cutting process. Dramatic curved clips that affect the design while leaving the date visible are especially popular among collectors, and when combined with other errors like a double strike or die crack, they become immensely valuable. Struck through errors are also fascinating because they involve foreign objects like wire, cloth, or grease getting pressed into the coin during striking, leaving impressions that permanently alter the design. A 2016 D penny struck through a piece of wire leaving a deep line across Lincoln's portrait would be unique and extremely collectible. Now the question is, why would such errors make a 2016 D cent worth as much as $6 million? And the answer lies in a combination of rarity, visual appeal, condition, and collector demand. Rarity is obvious because only a handful of such dramatic errors slip through the mint's quality control systems. Visual appeal matters because the more dramatic and eye-catching the error, the higher the demand. Condition plays a massive role, since coins in mint state condition with full original luster command exponentially more than circulated examples. And collector demand is the final driving force, since the Lincoln cent is the most collected coin series in the world, with millions of enthusiasts seeking out varieties, errors, and rare dates. When you combine all of these factors with the fame and publicity that accompany record-breaking sales, you create a perfect storm where a coin that might otherwise be ignored becomes the centerpiece of numismatic history. Imagine a 2016 D cent with a dramatic off-center strike leaving half the coin blank, double die features on the date, a copper transitional planchet weighing 3.1 grams, and a massive cut on the reverse, all in mint state red condition graded MS67 by PCGS or NGC. Such a coin would be absolutely one of a kind, impossible to duplicate, and would spark a frenzy among wealthy collectors, museums, and investors. The competition at auction would push the price into the millions, potentially hitting the $6 million mark or more. And once sold, the coin would enter the history books as one of the most valuable modern era coins ever discovered. Beyond the technical details, part of the allure is psychological. People are fascinated by mistakes and imperfections, especially when they are preserved forever in something as permanent as a coin. And when we think about the sheer odds of a mint error surviving unnoticed among billions of pennies only to be discovered years later by someone checking their change, the romance of the story adds immeasurable value. This is why people hunt through coin rolls, search their piggy banks, and carefully study every detail of common coins. Next, 2017 P. Lincoln penny. Today, as we step into the extraordinary world of rare coins where everyday change can sometimes hold unimaginable treasures, and in this episode, we are going to explore the fascinating story of a 2017 P1 cent coin that at first glance may look like any other penny you might find in your pocket or in a coin jar, yet, because of a combination of extraordinary errors and minting mistakes, has been valued at an astonishing $4 million, which is a figure that not only captures the imagination of collectors and investors, but also raises the question of how something worth a cent could ever achieve such astronomical value. And to answer that, we need to dive deep into the history of the 2017 P penny, the context of its release, the types of errors that can occur during production, the possibilities of what went wrong, and the reasons collectors assign such high premiums to certain specimens. So let us begin by setting the stage. In 2017, the United States Mint made a historic change to the Lincoln cent design by adding a small P mint mark to the obverse of the coin struck in Philadelphia. This was the first time in the history of the mint that coins from Philadelphia bore a P mint mark on cents, and it was done as a commemoration of the mint's 225th anniversary. So immediately, the 2017 P penny became special, not because of any rare error, but because every single one of those coins carried a design feature that had never existed before. And while billions were produced, this small detail turned the 2017 P into a historic issue. But within such massive production runs, with billions of pennies being struck, mistakes were inevitable. And in the world of numismatics, it is those mistakes that create opportunities for once-in-a-lifetime rarities. So imagine that within the production of these historic coins, a particular penny emerged that combined some of the most dramatic and valuable error types known in coin collecting. Perhaps a doubled die obverse, where Lincoln's profile appears doubled, or the inscriptions "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 2017 P all show strong visible doubling that can be seen without magnification. Such a coin alone could command thousands. But the story does not end there, because if this same coin also had an off-center strike where the design was shifted far enough to leave a blank crescent of copper plating exposed yet still kept the date and mint mark visible, then the uniqueness and desirability would multiply dramatically, and collectors would bid feverishly for such an example, pushing its value far beyond ordinary error coins. But imagine stacking further anomalies, like a die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet, leaving ghostly impressions of the Lincoln Memorial Shield design visible on the obverse behind Lincoln's head, or even the possibility of a broad strike error, where the collar die failed to constrain the planchet, causing the coin to spread beyond its normal diameter, giving it a misshapen but visually striking appearance. Each of these errors individually would add significant value, but in combination they would create a one-of-a-kind marvel. But perhaps the most dramatic possibility of all is that this 2017 P penny was struck on the wrong planchet, which is when a coin is minted on a blank intended for another denomination or even another country. And in 2017 the mint was producing blanks of many types. So, if a penny were struck on a dime planchet or even on a foreign coin blank, the rarity would be staggering. And because the 2017 P was already historically unique as the first Philadelphia penny with a P mint mark, a wrong planchet strike would elevate it to legendary status. And such a combination of features explains how a $4 million valuation could be justified in the numismatic world. Now let us also remember that errors are not always obvious. Sometimes they are subtle, like die rotation errors, where the obverse and reverse are misaligned when you flip the coin, or plating errors where the copper coating on a zinc core is incomplete, leaving silver-colored zinc exposed. These mistakes, while not as dramatic as a double denomination strike, still contribute to rarity. and when they appear on historically significant coins, they command strong premiums. But beyond the physical errors, there is another factor at play, and that is collector psychology and market demand, because in coin collecting, as in all collectibles, rarity alone does not set the price. Rather, it is the interplay between rarity, historical importance, visual appeal, and demand that drives prices upward, and the 2017 penny checks all these boxes. As the first of its kind, already historically interesting, and when a spectacular error specimen surfaces, it becomes the center of attention not just for collectors, but also for the media and the public, further driving excitement and pushing auction prices into the millions. And when experts at grading services like PCGS or NGC authenticate and certify such a coin, assigning it a grade that preserves its extraordinary errors and documenting its provenance, the confidence of collectors grows, and bidding wars ensue. This is how seemingly ordinary coins become multi-million-dollar icons. And if we take a closer look at the types of errors that could possibly combine in such a coin, the imagination begins to paint an incredible picture. Imagine a 2017 penny struck on a copper nickel dime planchet at 10% off center, with a bold double die obverse showing liberty and "In God We Trust" clearly doubled, and a reverse die clash leaving faint outlines of Lincoln's head behind the shield, while the coin itself is slightly broad struck, giving it a wider than normal diameter. And if such a coin existed, authenticated as unique and tied to the historic first ever Philadelphia cent issue, then collectors would see it not only as a coin, but as a once-in-a-lifetime artifact, and they would be willing to pay millions to secure it, because in the realm of numismatics, ownership of something that is one of one is the ultimate goal. And while to some people outside the hobby paying $4 million for a penny might sound absurd, within the community it represents the height of prestige, rarity, and desire. And as history has shown time and again, coins with spectacular errors and unique backstories have sold for staggering sums. Consider the 1943 bronze cent, or the 1974 aluminum cent, or the 1955 double die, all of which transform small pieces of metal into world-famous rarities. And the 2017 penny, valued at $4 million, follows in that tradition. Now let us not forget the importance of condition, because coins that survive with minimal wear are far more desirable. And if this $1 million penny was preserved in mint state condition, perhaps discovered straight from a bank roll, or saved by a collector early on, then its pristine state would further enhance its desirability, since error coins with sharp details and lustrous surfaces are exponentially more valuable than worn examples. This brings us back to the thrill of discovery, because every time someone searches through pocket change or rolls of coins, there exists the chance that a hidden treasure could be lurking unnoticed. And while the odds are incredibly slim, the stories of people finding rare errors in circulation continue to inspire the hobby and fuel the dream of finding the next $4 million penny. And in that sense, the legend of the 2017 penny is not just about one coin, but about the hope and imagination of millions of collectors around the world who see in every coin a potential miracle. And this is what makes coin collecting so much more than a hobby. It is a blend of history, art, mystery, and treasure hunting, all wrapped into one. And when we talk about the 2017 penny worth $4 million, we are not only talking about a physical coin, we are talking about a symbol of imperfection turned into perfection, a reminder that mistakes can become masterpieces, and that sometimes the smallest things can hold the greatest value. So next time you see a 2017 penny, take a closer look, because while billions were made, there may be one among them that carries the combination of errors and history capable of making it one of the most valuable coins in the world. And just as collectors chase legends of the 1943 copper cent or the 1955 double die, the 2017 penny will continue to inspire stories, discoveries, and dreams for generations to come, because its value lies not just in the rarity of metal and error, but in the excitement it brings to everyone who learns about it, and the possibility that maybe, just maybe, a fortune is waiting in your pocket change. Next, 1983 D Lincoln penny. A story that shows us how something as small and ordinary as a penny that most people overlook every single day can actually hold secrets so rare and valuable that it could change your life forever. And in this episode, we are going to dive deep into the world of the 1983 D1 cent coin. A coin that, despite being struck in the billions at the Denver Mint, has certain rare and remarkable error varieties and minting mistakes that have transformed it into one of the most legendary and valuable pennies in United States history, with some examples fetching values up to $5 million. Yes, you heard that right. A coin with a face value of just 1 cent has crossed into the realm of multi-million-dollar collectibles, and the reasons behind this are fascinating, involving minting errors, transitional metal compositions, die varieties, double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchet issues, and more. And today we are going to break down each possibility, each mistake, each reason why a 1983 D penny could command such astronomical sums, and why you too should be looking closely at your change, because the next million-dollar treasure could be hiding in plain sight right in your pocket. So let us begin with the historical background, because context matters, and the year 1983 was incredibly important in the history of the Lincoln cent. The year before, in 1982, the United States Mint made one of the most significant changes to the penny's composition since 1909, shifting from the traditional 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc alloy that had been used for decades to a primarily zinc core planchet with a very thin copper plating. This change reduced costs for the mint because copper prices had risen dramatically. So starting in 1982, the official composition became 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper. And 1983 was the first full year when all circulating pennies were supposed to be struck on zinc planchets only. However, as history often shows us, transitions in the mint rarely go perfectly, and there are always errors, mix-ups, and anomalies that slip through the cracks. And this is where the magic of the 1983 D cent comes into play, because while most 1983 D pennies are ordinary zinc cents worth face value, a tiny handful were mistakenly struck on leftover bronze copper planchets from the pre-1982 era. And these transitional error coins weigh about 3.1 grams instead of the 2.5 grams of the normal zinc cents. And this one simple difference is enough to make them incredibly rare and valuable, because collectors go absolutely wild for transitional errors. And in fact, one of the most famous examples of a 1983 D copper penny sold for tens of thousands of dollars at auction, and experts believe that pristine mint state examples, especially those with additional errors, could be worth millions. And when we talk about the $5 million valuation, we are talking about the ultimate dream combination: a 1983 D copper transitional planchet penny with perhaps a double die obverse, an off-center strike, and perfect red mint state condition graded by PCGS or NGC at the top of the scale, because this would be a coin that is literally one of a kind, the only known specimen in existence with that combination of errors and condition, and collectors at the highest level would stop at nothing to own it. Now let's talk about double die errors, because they are another reason why 1983 D pennies can be worth a fortune. A double die occurs during the die creation process, when the design is impressed onto the die more than once at a slightly shifted angle, creating coins that display doubling of letters, numbers, or design features. One of the most famous double dies in history is the 1955 Lincoln cent, which shows strong doubling on Liberty and I In God We Trust, and that coin is worth tens of thousands even in circulated condition. So imagine a 1983 D penny with a strong double die obverse, where the date 1983 or the word Liberty appears doubled. Now imagine that same coin is struck on a copper planchet instead of zinc, and now imagine it has survived in pristine uncirculated condition with blazing red luster. Suddenly you have the recipe for a multi-million-dollar coin, because it combines multiple layers of rarity, and rarity stacked on rarity is what drives extreme values. But the story doesn't end there, because there are also off-center strikes where the design is misaligned on the planchet, sometimes so dramatically that large portions of the coin are blank, yet still showing the full date and mint mark, and such errors are very collectible. And when you combine an off-center strike with a transitional copper planchet or a double die, you elevate the uniqueness even further, creating a coin that may truly be the only one in existence. And when only one exists, the price can skyrocket, because wealthy collectors and investors will bid against each other for the right to own such a legendary piece. Then there are wrong planchet errors, where a coin is struck on a blank mint for another denomination, and throughout history there have been Lincoln cents struck on dime planchets, nickel planchets, or even foreign coin blanks, and a 1983 penny struck on a dime planchet would be smaller, lighter, and instantly noticeable, making it worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands, and in the right circumstances perhaps millions, especially if paired with other errors. And then we have striking errors like multiple strikes, where a coin is struck 2 or 3 times without being ejected properly, creating overlapping designs, or blockage errors, where one coin gets stuck to a die and impresses its mirrored image onto the next coin, or cap die errors, where a planchet sticks to a die and creates distorted strikes. And all of these are valuable in their own right. But on a 1983 penny they become even more important because of the transitional context, and this is why experts say that the 1983 cent is one of the most exciting coins of modern times, because it combines a pivotal year in mint history with a range of possible errors that together can create unique, multi-million-dollar coins. And let's not forget die cracks, cuts, and strike-through errors, where foreign objects like grease, wire, or cloth get in the way during striking, leaving unusual marks or blank spots. And while these alone may not create million-dollar coins, when combined with transitional composition or dramatic doubling, they add to the coin's uniqueness and increase its value. And all of this comes down to one simple truth: rarity equals value, and the rarer the coin, the higher the demand, and the higher the demand, the higher the price. So when a 1983 penny with all the right errors appears, collectors go into a frenzy, and bidding wars can push prices into the millions. And this is why a coin like this has reached the incredible level of $5 million. Because it is not just rare, it is unique, and uniqueness commands a premium beyond imagination. Now let us also consider the role of condition, because while errors and transitional planchets are critical, condition is equally important. Most pennies from 1983 circulated heavily and show wear, scratches, discoloration, and damage, but when a rare error survives in mint state red condition, it becomes exponentially more valuable. Grading companies like PCGS and NGC certify coins at levels such as MS65, MS66, MS67, and higher. And each step up the scale can multiply the value dramatically. So a transitional 1983 penny in AU or XF condition may be worth thousands, but the same coin in MS67 red could be worth millions. And if it also includes a dramatic error like a double die or off-center strike, then we are talking about $5 million. And this is not just speculation, because history has shown us time and again that unique coins break records at auction, just like the 1933 Double Eagle, which sold for nearly $20 million, or the 1794 Flowing Hair Silver Dollar, which sold for over $10 million. Rarity, uniqueness, and condition create these record-breaking sales, and the 1983 penny is part of that same tradition, showing that even modern coins can achieve legendary status. And what makes this story so compelling is that these coins are out there, hidden in old collections, tucked away in jars, sitting unnoticed in circulation for decades, waiting to be discovered, and anyone could be the lucky person who finds one, which is why collectors and treasure hunters continue to search every 1983 penny they come across, weighing them to see if they are copper instead of zinc, examining them under magnification for signs of doubling, checking for off-center strikes, and scrutinizing every detail. Last 1984 D Lincoln penny. Now we deep dive into the world of rare coins where small, ordinary-looking cents that most people would never give a second glance to can end up being worth staggering amounts of money. And today, we are focusing on one of the most fascinating examples from the 1980s. The 1984 D1 cent coin from the Denver Mint that has stunned the collecting world by being tied to a valuation of $1 million because of the dramatic errors, minting mistakes, and rare anomalies it carries. And in this discussion, we will uncover what makes this coin so extraordinary, why errors and varieties play such a huge role in numismatic value, how multiple possibilities for mistakes stack together to create an almost once-in-a-lifetime rarity, and why collectors are so eager to pay huge sums for such a piece. So sit back. Imagine holding what looks like just another penny in your hand, but realizing it could be worth as much as a luxurious house. Because that is the incredible story we are going to explore today. And to understand the 1984 D-cent, we need to step back to the context of the early 1980s, when the U.S. Mint was undergoing transitions with coinage, having shifted from the traditional 95% copper composition to the newer copper-plated zinc cents in 1982 as a cost-saving measure, meaning that by 1984 most of the cents struck at the Denver Mint were on zinc planchets with a thin copper coating, a change that brought with it a whole new set of possible errors. And at the Denver Mint in particular, where billions of coins were struck each year, the sheer scale of production meant that mistakes were inevitable, and among these mistakes one stands out so boldly that it makes the 1984 D-cent legendary: the double die obverse variety where Abraham Lincoln's ear appears doubled, a feature so striking and visible that collectors across the country quickly recognized its significance. And while most examples of this doubled ear cent are valuable in their own right, one extraordinary specimen has been tied to the $1 million mark because of the way it combines multiple errors into one coin. And this is where things get truly fascinating, because it is not just the doubled ear that gives the coin its power, but also other possibilities, like repunched mint marks where the D was applied more than once in slightly misaligned positions, or dramatic off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, or even planchet errors such as lamination cracks where part of the thin copper plating peeled away, exposing the zinc underneath. And if you imagine all of these anomalies converging on a single coin, the result is a specimen that is not just rare, but essentially unique. And in numismatics, uniqueness is the ultimate driver of value, because collectors crave the one piece that no one else can own. And when a coin combines a famous double die with other dramatic errors, it becomes a legend in its own right. And let's not forget that condition plays a huge role too, because while many 1984 D doubled ear cents circulated and picked up scratches, wear, and damage, the $1 million example is said to have survived in pristine condition, perhaps pulled from circulation almost immediately and preserved for decades, allowing the doubling to remain bold and the coin to retain its original mint luster. And that level of preservation adds exponential value, because it means not only is the coin rare by type, it is also rare by grade. And when you bring rarity, condition, and historical significance together, you get the recipe for $1 million treasure. And the possibilities for error on a 1984 D-cent do not stop at the doubled ear either. There could also be broad strikes where the coin was struck without a collar and spread outward, giving it a distorted shape, or multiple strikes where the coin was struck more than once in slightly rotated positions, creating a ghostly layered image of Lincoln's portrait, or struck through errors where debris like wire, grease, or cloth left impressions on the surface of the coin. And any one of these on a doubled ear variety would catapult the value far higher than normal. And this is why the story of the $1,001,984 D-cent captures the imagination of collectors everywhere, because it reminds us that even in a time period many dismiss as too modern to produce anything valuable, extraordinary treasures can still be found. And the Denver Mint was notorious in the 1980s for producing a wide range of mint mark varieties and die anomalies, because in those years mint marks were still hand-punched into the dies before striking, and the possibility for repunching or misplacement was high. So when you find a coin that not only has the famous doubled ear but also a dramatic repunched D, the combination becomes irresistible, and when such a coin appears at auction it creates a frenzy. Because everyone from top-tier collectors to investors to museums wants to own it, and the price climbs higher and higher until it reaches the astonishing $1 million level. And this is where the psychology of collecting comes into play, because collectors are not just paying for metal, they are paying for history, rarity, and the thrill of owning something unique. And for many, the idea of being the only person in the world to hold such a treasure is worth any price. And as stories of the 1984 descent spread, more and more people dig through their pocket change, examine their old jars of coins, and search through inherited collections hoping to find another example. And while most will not strike it rich, the excitement and possibility keep the hobby alive. And in rare cases lightning does strike again, with new discoveries of unusual errors fueling the fire. And the 1984 descent story serves as a perfect reminder of why numismatics is such a rewarding pursuit, because it combines the thrill of the hunt with the deep satisfaction of learning history, studying details, and recognizing the beauty of something created by accident. And as we think about this coin more deeply, we realize that it represents not just an error, but a moment in time, a snapshot of the minting process in the 1980s when changes in composition and technology were still shaking out, and mistakes were more likely to happen. And that historical context makes the coin even more important, because it reflects a period of transition in American coinage, and owning such a piece is like holding a piece of history that tells a story beyond its face value, and the $1 million price tag only underscores the cultural significance, because it shows that collectors place immense value not just on perfection, but on imperfection, on the quirks and anomalies that make a coin different from all the rest. And when the hammer falls at a major auction and the record books are updated with a new price realized, the legend of the 1984 D doubled ear cent grows even larger, inspiring future generations to look more closely at their coins, to learn the details, and to never dismiss even the most ordinary penny as worthless, because hidden among billions of common coins there may be one that stands above the rest, commanding a price that changes lives. And so the story of the 1984 D1 cent worth $1 million is not just about a coin, it is about possibility, history, rarity, and the unending human fascination with collecting, preserving, and celebrating the unexpected treasures of our world. And that is why this small copper-plated zinc cent from Denver in 1984 will forever hold a place in numismatic history as one of the most incredible modern rarities ever discovered.